When we look further inside the chromosome, we find DNA. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It can be defined as, deoxyribonucleic acid is a molecule that carries the genetic instructions for the development, functioning, and reproduction of all living organisms and some viruses. In simple terms, DNA is the molecule that stores the instructions needed for an organism to grow, function, and reproduce. It contains all the genetic information that controls how living organisms develop and carry out their life processes. Now let us understand how DNA is organized into chromosomes. DNA has a special double helix structure that carries genetic information. This DNA is located inside the cell, specifically within the nucleus. Because a DNA molecule is extremely long, it cannot remain loose inside the nucleus. Therefore, it must be tightly packed so that it can fit properly inside this small space. To achieve this, the DNA wraps around special proteins called histone proteins. This combination forms a structure known as chromatin. The chromatin then folds further and condenses to form chromosomes. Each chromosome is made up of one very long DNA molecule along with the proteins associated with it. A chromosome also contains a region called the centromere, which plays an important role during cell division. At the ends of the chromosome there are structures known as telomeres, which protect the ends of the DNA. Along the length of the DNA molecule there are many genes. Genes are small segments of DNA that contain instructions for producing proteins. These proteins control different activities within the cell and help determine the characteristics and features of a living organism. As you can see here, this image shows the hierarchical organization of genetic material within a human, explaining how DNA is arranged inside cells. A human body is made up of many cells, which are the basic units of life responsible for carrying out all the functions necessary for survival. Inside each cell, there is a structure called the nucleus. The nucleus acts as the control center of the cell and stores the genetic material. Within the nucleus are chromosomes. Chromosomes are thread-like structures formed when DNA is tightly coiled around proteins, allowing the genetic material to be neatly organized. Inside the chromosomes is DNA, which is the fundamental molecule of heredity. DNA has a double helix structure and carries the genetic instructions needed for the growth, development, and functioning of an organism. In this way, genetic material is organized in levels. DNA forms chromosomes, chromosomes are located inside the nucleus, and the nucleus is found within the cell. This arrangement ensures that genetic information is safely stored, protected, and accurately passed on in living organisms. Looking more closely, this image illustrates the fundamental structure of DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. It shows that DNA is organized as a double helix, which is made up of smaller units called nucleotides. Each nucleotide consists of a sugar molecule, a phosphate group, and one of 4 nitrogenous bases. The 4 nitrogenous bases that make up the genetic code are adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. These bases follow specific pairing rules. Adenine always pairs with thymine, and cytosine always pairs with guanine. The overall structure of DNA forms a double helix, which looks like a twisted ladder. The sugar and phosphate molecules form the sides of the ladder, while the paired bases form the rungs. This organized structure allows DNA to carry and store genetic information in a stable yet flexible form, enabling it to be replicated and transmitted during cell division.